Alright, dig it Hepcats, and welcome to the NeoTeagle YouTube channel. I'm Drew, and today we are going to talk about the hero's journey. And very specifically, I'm going to use Star Wars as the primary example to explain it. Now, okay, warning, there will be some spoilers for other movies too, but they're going to be older movies, so if you're going to watch them, you probably already have, so no big deal there. Okay, what is the hero's journey? Now, if you think it has anything to do with literally traveling from place to place, then no, that's not what it is. Because if it was a physical journey, then we would be using this movie instead. So, the hero's journey is basically this story template. It was based on recurring trends that they found in Greek mythology, and as everyone knows, Greek mythology is where all the greatest stories in the world come from. This is a sort of simplified version of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and how it goes. It always starts with something called the ordinary world phase, and this is where it sets up, you know, your hero and the world that, you know, they live in. Basically, this is normality. And then after that is the call to adventure, otherwise known as the inciting incident. And this is where something happens that knocks everything off kilter. You know, the ordinary world becomes abnormal and it'll never go back to being the same again unless something happens. The hero goes off on their adventure, and that's where the mid part comes in. And in this phase called the initiation phase, they gotta go and do a whole bunch of stuff to sort of like prove themselves, okay? And that's followed by a moment of despair. Something really sad will happen because it's got to remind the audience exactly what is at risk here, what is going to happen if the hero does not complete their journey successfully. And after the moment of despair comes the big resolution, and that's when, you know, all the pyrotechnics kick in and all your epic action and all your other epicness, and the big Hans Zimmer soundtrack, you know, will hit a big crescendo and things explode. But you will walk away from this resolution feeling like a happy clam because you will be satisfied. People have been taking this hero's journey and adapting it to, you know, like let's say movies, for example, for like, you know, since movies existed, I guess. And it's gonna look a little bit like this in movie form. So they're gonna call it the 3-act structure, and it's gonna be Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 with plot points in between. And if you look at a standard 90-minute movie, it's going to be more or less 15 minutes, plot point, 60 minutes, plot point, and the final act, another 15 minutes. Okay, so now we're going to look at how the hero's journey plays out for Luke Skywalker in Star Wars. We're going to go into Ordinary World first, and that's when you first meet him. He's this, you know, really easy, it's this nice farm boy, you know, working with his aunt and uncle on a farm in the middle of like some desert planet in nowhere land. And, you know, he's got like big dreams of, you know, joining his friends at like, you know, the academy and becoming like a starfighter pilot. But, you know, his uncle's always like, no, you gotta stay here and work on the farm. And Luke's like, being the nice guy he is, it's like, okay. Luke's call to adventure kicks in when he picks up these couple of droids. And they play him this message where, like, you know, this princess is looking for help. And he goes off and finds this old guy named Ben Kenobi, and then he's all like, alright, we're gonna go and rescue this princess, and you gotta come with me. And he's like, no, I can't do that. And the old guy's like totally like, yes, you have to. And look, here, have a lightsaber. So after that, they go off on their adventures, and, you know, he learns the ways of the Force. He learns how to, you know, wield a lightsaber. He actually ends up rescuing the princess, and, you know, they shoot a bunch of stormtroopers to, you know, and he really proves that he's got hero chops in him. And then, you know, at the end of rescuing the princess, his mentor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, meets his doom at the hands of Darth Vader, the big bad. Pah! And then, you know, Luke's all sad, you know, his friends, Han Solo and Princess Leia, they're all sad. Chewbacca's all sad, and then that sadness kind of inspires them to get together a whole bunch of, you know, rebel forces, and then they go and blow up the Death Star. And everyone's happy. Why does this work? Why did the hero's journey work for Star Wars? Well, it's because if you've got the story that you want to tell as a storyteller, and then you've got, you know, what your audience wants to see when they go in and, you know, and experience a story. And Star Wars and the hero's journey sits right smack dab in the middle of it. That nice overlap. And you know what? This hero's journey didn't just work for Star Wars, it has worked for a whole bunch of other stories too. Let's look at John Wick. In John Wick, it starts off and you meet him in his ordinary world where, you know, he's this nice guy and he's got a dog, and, you know, his wife just died and he really loves his dog because his wife got him that dog. And then these guys come along and they kill his dog, okay? Not realizing that John Wick is like the most badass killer in the whole wide world. So what happens after? He proves that he is still a badass killer by going and killing people that are not quite as badass as he is. And then after that, what happens is he's got this mentor, sort of best friend guy, and then he gets killed by the bad guy. And so that gets John Wick all angry, and then he finally goes off, meets the big bad, and then he kills him too. Okay, let's look at Shepard's journey in Mass Effect. Okay, when you begin in the ordinary world, you meet Shepard, and he or she is going to be like this space soldier, just doing space soldier things, and all of a sudden they're going to meet Saren, and then, you know, they're going to find this beacon thing, and that beacon thing is going to give them visions of the galaxy being consumed by war. Shepard's got to go and stop this war. So in the initiation phase, you know, they're gonna prove themselves by fighting aliens, flirting with aliens, and then in a moment of despair, they're gonna have to choose one of their crewmates to be sacrificed and die, and then they get really sad. And after that, they go and have a big, massive space battle with a giant, you know, alien thing. And that's awesome. The hero's journey even works with something that's not so actiony. Let's look at Notting Hill. So at the beginning of the movie, you know, you meet William, and he's like this guy that just, you know, just kind of lonely, kind of chill guy that works in this bookstore. And then one day, all of a sudden, the world's most famous actress walks into his bookstore, and he's totally blown away by how, you know, how amazing she is. And after that, they, in the initiation phase, they go on, you know, they go on these like little dates and stuff together, and they realize, yeah, they really do gel. And then in a moment of despair, he hangs out at a movie set of hers, and he overhears her saying that, you know, oh yeah, that guy, he's nobody, he's a nobody, and he's all heartbroken. But, you know, eventually his friends kind of tell him, no, you know, this is something worth pursuing. And then the two of them work it out, and they get together, and by that time, you really like the fact that they get together, because you love the both of them. Based on, I mean, I understood this structure, because I've read it in a whole bunch of, like, screenwriting books and all that kind of stuff. So I just followed that structure. I wrote tons of stories, and I was blindly following all the beats just because I thought, you know, this is what you're supposed to do because this is what everyone else does, and this is what the audience expects out from a story. But one day, I finally realized why the hero's journey works and why it is the standard, you know, when it comes to storytelling. And it works because it flows. If you follow the structure, it should flow really nicely. You know, in a sense, it's like a combo. every move sets you up nicely for like the next one. Or you can think of it as a well-designed level, you know, where every little action-y bit leads you perfectly into the next one. It guides you to the next one, and it flows nicely. But, you know, it's not just a chain about the story beats. It is actually about the emotional response, your audience's emotional response. And ultimately, that is why the hero's journey works so well. Okay? So if we go back to the example of Star Wars, and we know what happens now, but let's look at it from the audience's perspective. When someone sits down and experiences your story, what's the first thing that's going to be on their mind? They're going to be like, okay, why should I care? And that's where the ordinary world sequence is so important, because it's designed to make your audience really like your main characters. If you're not doing that in the ordinary world, then you're not doing it right, because they need to care. And once they care about your characters, the next question they're going to ask is, what needs to be done? Okay, and that's where the call to adventure kicks in, because it tells the audience, okay, now that you like this person, this is what they need to do. And then once they understand that, how will they do it? That's where the initiation phase kicks in. You know, it shows the hero going through their paces, you know, and proving themselves worthy of your attention, worthy to, you know, to win the day. And after that, the audience needs to be reminded of what exactly will happen if the hero doesn't successfully do this. Okay, so that's why someone has to die, or someone has to have their heart broken, or something bad has to happen in this moment of despair. Because once that happens, your audience is finally ready for like the big finale, and finally ready for like the big showdown and the big payoff. So the hero's journey works because it takes the viewer on a perfectly sequenced emotional journey. Now, if you don't do it this way, your finale, no matter how epic, no matter how many explosions you throw in there, no matter, you know, how amazing the soundtrack, it's not gonna hit the audience hard if they don't care about the characters at that point, or if they don't understand what the characters are fighting for exactly at that point. So that's why this sequence is really important. You gotta make them care, you gotta make them understand what's it about, and then you can give them the big payoff. It's a very satisfying emotional journey. It's like that feeling when you hit that, you know, perfect combo in Batman Arkham Asylum. Or like if you go through a Mirror's Edge level in one complete combo or something. It leads your audience through that emotional journey until that big payoff. It's every step going to the next one. Combo, 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 combo. Now that you know the structure that you have to hit, okay, it becomes much easier as a storyteller to fill in all the blanks and create this fully formed narrative that way. Okay, so this is how I did it. This is how I used it when I was writing Gloom and Doom. For my story, I knew I had to make my audience like my protagonist. I knew that because my protagonist is a killer ghost. Okay, a killer immortal ghost that's lived for like 500 years. Nobody relates to that. Well, nobody I know anyway. So very early on in the game, I know I have to set him up to be someone relatable. So in like this very second, you know, almost like the second or third scene, you're gonna see Gloom, and he's gonna be like playing video games, you know, with his friend. And he's gonna come across as this like kind of almost sympathetic guy who's working his ass off, trying to make something of himself, trying to get somewhere. But no matter what he does, no matter how hard he works, he's just not able to make that kind of progress. And you know, you can't relate to being a killer ghost, but you can relate to that. And that's why a lot of people did like Gloom as a character. So now that people, you know, now that I figured people are gonna like him, now I'm gonna explain exactly what he has to do and what the game is about. And I knew that's gonna happen when he meets Winona. Okay, so this scene is going to be where the story really begins. when when the two of them meet and his mission becomes to kill her. So I know that I then have to put the scene pretty, I can't put it too far back in in the game, otherwise people are going to be like playing it and going, what's going on, what are we supposed to do? So I know I had to put that up early-ish in the game. Now I've been thinking about this story for like a long time, and I've always envisioned it ending with this big epic battle where Gloom and Winona finally decide to to be there for one another, to help each other, and then they have to fight off all these demons and angels. So I knew that's the big finale, and that's going to come at the end. But I also knew that because of this journey, before I get to that point, I need this that moment of despair. And for me, the way I put that moment of despair in was I brought in his ex-wife. So, Gloom's ex-wife gets introduced at that point and sort of, reminds him what he's been trying to do his entire life before meeting Winona. And that would be enough to sort of like get him to lose his resolve and kind of let Winona down in that sense. And because I wanted the audience to kind of go, no, don't do it, Gloom, don't be such a dick. But you need that, otherwise it's going to be too perfect all the way. So now that I know how it's going to start, I know how it's going to end, all I had to do was sort of fill in the middle parts. And I know what I need to fill in the middle parts. I know I need to get from the beginning to the end, but I also need to like spruce it up by making sure that during these scenes in the middle, you come to understand why Gloom and Winona get along so well, and why they can sort of start understanding each other, and to make the audience really care about not just about the both of them, but really like the two of them together. Not as they're not a couple or anything like that, but as friends. They need each other in their lives, and that's what the middle part is also about. So after laying it all out like this, and honestly, I had a whole bunch of scenes that I just put as like cards, like physical cards, and I wrote them down, and then I looked at that journey and sort of rearranged the cards around until it flowed in this way. And that's when I figured, okay, this is my story, and this is exactly how I'm going to write it. But you don't always have to follow the same 5 steps like that, because once you understand the flow, once you understand the emotional journey flow, you can break the structure. Know the rules before you break them. And now that you know the rules, just knock yourself out. Write unconventional, wacky, non-linear stories. Throw away the 3-act structure if you want. And these films did exactly that, but the important thing is they still took the audience on that same emotional journey. Make the audience care about the characters first. Introduce what the characters have to do, have that moment of despair somewhere, and then give them that big satisfying payoff. But what happens if you mess up the sequence? As an example of a movie that doesn't quite hit the sequence, I'm going to use Transformers 2. Okay, Revenge of the Fallen. So, this is the traditional hero's journey and the ideal audience emotional response. And this is how Michael Bay treated Transformers 2. So, when you're supposed to get someone to care in the ordinary world, he decided he wanted to get them excited by, starting the movie with a big action sequence. He followed that up with an even bigger action set piece. And then during the initiation phase, he added some slapstick comedy sequences where Shia LaBeouf goes to university and, his parents get stoned, and apparently that's all really funny stuff. And then for the moment of despair, big action scene where where Optimus dies, but he dies for like 5 minutes, so it's not really much of an emotional downer. And then finally he saves like the biggest action set piece for the end. See, and it didn't quite work, because although like the set pieces were amazing and the action was there and the explosions were like super huge, at any point in that movie, you didn't really care about anybody. Not about like the Transformers, not about, Sam, not about Megatron even. And that's because you weren't taken on that emotional journey that you were supposed to. But that's Michael Bay. He is who he is, and he understands who he is, and I think that's okay. Because in all fairness, nobody blows stuff up the same way Michael Bay does. And honestly, I'm really proud to have worked on Transformers 3 because I have seen just how much thought he puts into his destruction. So in that sense, the guy's a genius. Okay, anyway, just to sum things up, if you weren't really paying attention the whole way, the journey is a flowing series of steps, and to make the best use of it, you gotta plan step-specific content leading from one to the next, and don't mess up the flow. So anyway, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think in the next video, I'm gonna talk about how understanding the hero's journey can help in marketing as well. Because once you know the hero's journey and and the whole importance of sequence and flow, you can apply that to the customer journey, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about next time. All right, if you like the video, please like it, drop any kind of comments if you if you have anything to say about it or anything to add, and yeah, if you like this stuff, please subscribe to my channel. Until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye.